Have you ever walked into a room, said something to your grown child, and they didn't even look up? That tiny moment of being ignored can cut deeper than words. What if I told you that this painful experience is more common than you think, and more importantly, that there is something you can do about it? I once sat across from a 76-year-old mother who whispered, "My son calls his dog more than he calls me." That sentence stayed with me for years, not because it was shocking, but because it was heartbreakingly familiar. And maybe, in your quiet moments, you felt the same sting of being invisible in your own family. But here's the truth I've discovered after over a decade of working with older adults and their families. You don't have to yell, beg, or guilt your children into respecting you. Respect can be rebuilt, but only from a place of calm strength. In this video, I'll guide you through a 6-step approach that has helped countless parents restore connection with their grown children. These aren't empty theories. They're practical, powerful actions that lead to real change. And around the middle of this video, I'll share the exact phrase that stopped a daughter in her tracks and brought her to tears. If that moment touches something in you, pause the video and comment below. I want to know how many of you understand that feeling. And if you believe in this message, please like this video and subscribe for more heartfelt guidance. Now let's begin. Step 1 may be the hardest, but it's also the most powerful: learning to control your emotions, even when you're deeply hurt. Step 1. Keep your emotions in check. Have you ever felt a fire rising inside you when your child rolled their eyes or ignored your words completely? That fire, it's not just anger. It's hurt. It's love that feels rejected. And it's the moment where most parents lose control, not because they're weak, but because they've reached their emotional limit. But here's the truth I've learned after years working with seniors and family counselors. The person who stays calm holds the power in the room. Not the loudest voice, not the most dramatic reaction, but the one who breathes before speaking. When you react out of pain, your words often come from your wound, not your wisdom. And while the hurt may be real, the reaction can drive your child even further away. Instead, pause. Breathe deeply. Let the silence speak louder than frustration. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means directing them toward a more effective outcome. Your calm becomes a mirror. It reflects maturity, composure, and strength, qualities your children often forget, but still need to see. And something remarkable happens when you master this first step. Your child begins to notice. Maybe not right away, but over time, they feel the shift. So before we dive into why they might be acting distant or disrespectful, you must reclaim your emotional ground. Because when your heart is calm, your words carry more weight, and your presence, more peace. Now let's move on to step 2, learning how to show deep understanding without giving in. Step 2, show understanding without giving in. What if I told you that your child's disrespect might have nothing to do with you? Sometimes, what looks like rudeness or defiance is actually something far more complicated: stress from work, insecurity from feeling like they're not enough, or frustration they don't know how to put into words. I've spoken with many older parents who've said, "He snapped at me out of nowhere," when, in truth, their child was battling a storm on the inside. That's why the second step isn't about backing down. It's about seeing past the behavior and into the emotion driving it. When you take a moment to pause and ask, what might they really be feeling right now? You're not excusing their actions. You're interrupting a pattern. You're saying, "I see you're hurting, but that doesn't make it okay to hurt me." Showing empathy doesn't make you weak. It proves you're strong enough to lead with both compassion and clarity. And when your child senses that you're not attacking or judging, but truly trying to understand, they may finally lower their guard. No, they won't change overnight, but they will remember that moment when you didn't fight fire with fire. Instead, you met them with presence. And from that, healing can begin. Now that you've taken the time to understand what's beneath the surface, it's time to do something equally powerful. Set boundaries that are calm, clear, and rooted in self-respect. Let's move on to step 3. Step 3. Set clear boundaries. Dat ran gioi ro rong va ben tin. Once you've listened with empathy, it's time to do something just as important. Set clear, loving boundaries. Many older parents I've worked with tell me, "I don't want to be too strict. I don't want to lose my child." But here's the truth. When you avoid boundaries to keep the peace, you often end up losing both. Boundaries are not about control. They're about clarity. They tell your children, "This is how I expect to be treated," because I respect myself. And the key is to communicate those boundaries not in anger, but in calm strength. When you say, I won't accept being spoken to that way, or if we're going to have a conversation, I need it to be respectful, you are modeling self-worth, not punishment. Children, no matter their age, still need structure. And when that structure is delivered with consistency and kindness, it feels like stability, not control. The goal isn't to threaten or punish. It's to show that your love has limits, and those limits are rooted in dignity. If your child crosses a line, calmly explain the consequence and follow through. But never raise your voice to prove a point. Let your calm be the point. Boundaries teach responsibility and build trust over time. And trust, when rebuilt from the foundation up, is stronger than before. So now that you've reclaimed your emotional ground and drawn your lines with grace, it's time for the next essential step, leading by example, even when it's hard. Step 4. Set the example. Children may stop listening to your words, but they never stop watching your actions. I've worked with many older parents who asked, why won't they respect me? And often, my first question back is, how do you respond when they don't? Because here's a truth we often overlook. You teach your children how to treat you by how you treat them, especially in moments of conflict. If you want respect, you must show it first, even when it's hard. If you want them to listen, start by being fully present when they speak. Even when your heart is heavy, even when they're pulling away, your consistency is your message. The way you respond during tense conversations, how you set your tone, how you carry yourself when you feel disrespected, those are the lessons they absorb. Not the lecture, not the rules, but the reflection of your integrity. And no, you don't need to be perfect. In fact, perfection isn't real. What matters is that you show up with honesty, humility, and emotional maturity. If you fall short, own it. If you lose your temper, apologize. That's not weakness. That's leadership. And when your children witness you living the values you hope they'll embrace, something shifts. Slowly, deeply, and often silently. You become the standard they begin to carry forward. And when the example you set is rooted in love and self-respect, you don't need to demand change. It grows naturally. Now let's take that quiet influence one step further, by creating connection, not just correction. Step 5. Create moments of connection outside conflict. Correction without connection often leads to resistance. That's why the next step is not about what happens during conflict. It's about what you build outside of it. So many older parents tell me, we only talk when there's a problem. And that's exactly the problem. If your relationship is built only around rules, reminders, and redirections, it begins to feel like a transaction, not a bond. But when you create moments of connection, sharing a quiet meal, walking together, asking about their day without an agenda, you plant seeds of trust. Even if your child seems distant, even if they brush you off at first, your presence still matters. It tells them, I'm here for more than correction. I'm here because I care about you. These small, intentional moments outside of conflict form the emotional safety net that catches them when life gets heavy. They remember who stood beside them when things were calm. And the more connection they feel, the more they'll respect the relationship, and by extension, you. Don't underestimate the power of simple, shared time. You don't have to fix them, lecture them, or prove anything. Just be with them, fully present, even for 5 minutes. That alone can shift the emotional tone of your entire relationship. And the beauty of it? These moments cost nothing, but they give everything. And once the connection is there, something magical happens. They start to open up on their own. So the next step is just as powerful, giving them space to reflect, without pushing, pressuring, or forcing. Step 6. Give them space to reflect. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is step back. After you've stayed calm, shown empathy, set boundaries, and reconnected, the next step is one of trust. Give them space to reflect. One of the biggest mistakes I see, even among well-meaning parents, is expecting immediate change. I talked to her. Why didn't she respond? But growth doesn't work on demand, especially emotional growth. Your child may need time, not because they don't care, but because they don't yet know how to respond differently. And here's what I've learned from years of family work. When you give someone space without pressure, you give them room to mature. They begin to process what you've said, on their terms, in their own quiet way. Maybe they remember your calm voice. Maybe they think back to that one boundary you set without raising your tone. Maybe they start to feel, without shame, that they could have done better. But that realization doesn't come when you chase it. It comes in stillness. So resist the urge to rehash, to lecture, or to force an apology. Let the silence do its work. Trust that the seeds you've planted, through love, patience, and presence, are taking root, even if you can't see the bloom just yet. Because true change isn't loud. It's slow, deep, and lasting. And now that you've learned all 6 steps, let's bring it all together, with a few final lessons that will help you strengthen the bond for years to come. Here's something most parenting guides won't tell you. Not every battle needs to be fought. One of the most transformative lessons I've learned from working with older parents is this. Sometimes, letting the small stuff go is the most powerful move you can make. If your child forgets to call, leaves their shoes by the door, or snaps briefly in frustration, ask yourself, is this a moment to teach, or a moment to breathe? Not everything deserves your energy. When you choose silence over criticism, you model wisdom. When you let the little things pass, you create room for the bigger things to heal. Another overlooked strategy? Involve your children in decisions that affect the family dynamic. Whether it's a simple holiday plan or a change in routine, giving them a voice, without giving up your authority, makes them feel respected, not managed. And when people feel respected, they're more likely to offer it in return. Also, don't just correct mistakes, celebrate progress, even if it's small. A simple, "I appreciated how you spoke to me today," can reinforce the behavior you've been longing for. And when you make a mistake, say so. Your humility teaches far more than any lecture. All of these are quiet, subtle shifts, but they add up. And now that you've seen the full picture, let's close with something deeper. A final message of hope, healing, and what it truly means to rebuild trust, one choice at a time. If no one's told you this lately, let me be the one to say it. You matter. Your voice matters. And the way your children treat you does not define your worth. The fact that you're here, watching this, means you're choosing growth over resentment, wisdom over reaction, and connection over control. That's not weakness. That's incredible strength. Rebuilding respect with your grown children isn't about winning arguments or demanding attention. It's about showing up calmly and consistently with boundaries, compassion, and self-respect. Every quiet decision you make, to listen instead of lecture, to breathe instead of explode, to walk away instead of escalate, is a seed planted in your relationship. And though the growth may be slow, it is real. I hope these 6 steps gave you more than just ideas. I hope they gave you back a sense of power, the kind that comes not from raising your voice, but from raising your standard for how you deserve to be treated. If this video resonated with you, please leave a comment below. Share your experience, your turning point, or even just a moment you related to. I read every comment, and you never know who else might need to hear your story. And if you found value in this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need it. Because healing doesn't happen alone, and neither does respect. Let's rebuild it, together.